Welcome everybody. Week 3, Ball Up Top, Andscape's Ball Up Top. I am David Dennis Jr., senior writer at Andscape, NBA analyst, here with my main man, Danny Green, who we met a few months ago on NBA Today set. I was sort of getting my start on NBA Today. You were there. We were hanging out, talking hoops, talking all kind of talking family stuff, talking like life. One of the coolest dudes I've been able to meet through this process of talking hoops and talking sports. And so really happy to have you join us, man. It's really cool.
Thanks for having me, man. It's kind of the start for me too, man. I'm new to the space, learning a lot from everybody, especially you, of how you approach the panel, how you approach just talking, getting your points off, and how to portray to the viewership, how to understand and break down certain things. So it's been a pleasure to work alongside you, learn some things, and then also get to know you on a personal level. But it's early days for me, and it's me getting to learn the space as well from everybody around me, including you.
Cool. So we're gonna do some fun stuff today. So I have been very fascinated with the Western Conference. Like, the Western Conference is just like one of the more interesting races I think that we've had at basketball. Namely, a lot of it is part of the fact that during the trade deadline, we had two seismic shifts of teams that I don't think before the trade deadline really had a chance of a championship, and that's the Warriors, that's the Lakers. They were probably going to make it. I mean, the Lakers were going to be in, the Warriors were in the play-in, and now adding Luka to the Lakers, adding Jimmy Butler to the Warriors has sort of flipped the West. And they can't really make up in the standings. Like, the Warriors not going to be a top 2 seed. Lakers probably not going to end up at a top 2 seed. But the power dynamic has shifted in the West. So for me, what I want to do is I know we have what the Western standings are now. I want to re-rank the Western Conference teams, the top 8 teams, based on who has a shot to win the championship, who's playing the best, and what we think. You good with that?
I'm with that. Let's do it. I mean, you said it is a big power shift. And thinking back of if those teams stayed the way they were, they would have been completely different positions, right? Like, I don't think the Lakers would be, and they'd probably be in the play-in. And Golden State, I don't even think they'd make the playoffs, honestly, if they didn't get Jimmy. Like, I think they'd be a team that's in the play-in outskirts, but would lose in the play-in, honestly.
Yeah, it was a rough go for the Warriors until Jimmy Butler, which is why I was begging for them to make that move. So here's who the West is right now. Right now, the standings are Thunder, Rockets, Nuggets, Lakers, Grizzlies, Warriors, Timberwolves are 7, Clippers are 8. So that's where we are right now. If we had the first round right now, and this is of course there's a 9 or 10. It's Kings, Mavericks. We tossing about
OKC versus Clippers.
Right? OKC versus Clippers. Yeah, Rockets and Timberwolves, Nuggets, Warriors, Lakers, Grizzlies. That's where we would be right now if the playoffs started right now, which is kind of crazy because there's I mean, I'm gonna get to when we talk about the rankings. We'll talk about who we think would come out. So that's what the current Western Conference standings are right now. So I want to re-rank the teams based on who's playing the best, who has the better prospects of the playoffs going forward. All right, so I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start top to bottom, okay? Because I think we all know who the top is. You tell me if you agree, disagree. What do you think? To me, I mean, the Thunder are the top team in the West. Like, there's just no way around it. The defense has been incredible, ranking number 1 in basically every statistical category. What they did to Milwaukee was extremely impressive. They were missing players, and they shut that Milwaukee team down. I think they had 41 points in the first half. SGA goes to Detroit, has them throwing a fit. He does not have, like, three of his players puts up 48 points. And these are two. Bickerstaff was losing his mind after the game. What do you feel about the Thunder? What are you seeing from them?
I'm with you on that. I'm agree. Outside of them, I feel like everything is kind of like it's hard to pick and choose who's head and shoulders above the next group, and there's not much trust in any other team But even with them, so they don't have the experience yet. But there's nobody in the West that I'm for sure trusting to be like they're gonna make it out of the West. They are vulnerable, but they are the best team to me in the West at number 1. Everybody else, I feel like they're kind of. Like, you have Memphis playing Lakers. They were 2 seed before. Houston was higher, lower. Like, they're all separated by 2 or 3 games. Denver, I don't trust, but they obviously been there before. They have some pedigree, and they can upset a team. But yeah, it's so kind of fairly, I wouldn't say even, but yeah, fair, kind of like just everybody's in the same place for me. So it's hard to rank outside of OKC of who I think and trust in the playoffs. I'd have to go with some veteran, experience if I've had to choose on my number two. Number two, I'm wondering who you got. I can guess.
Yeah, well, the OKC thing is interesting because I'm interested in, like, we're talking about, like, the youth. Because I'm interested from a player perspective. Because when I look at this and I see people that are like, oh, they're so young, they haven't been there before. Mm-hmm. I'm always curious about what that means. Because sometimes if you're just a better team, you're just a better team, right? And I'm
for sure
interested about times where you've either played against a team where it's like they're really, really good, but they're just too young. Like I think about that Warriors team that you guys played after they beat Denver and Steph went crazy and they blew the 20-point lead in the first quarter. First game, or like say the OKC team who eventually, they got hot 2012. Or if there was a team that you played where it was like they're so young we could beat them, or their skill set overpowered the youth, or maybe you were on a team that kind of had this sort of youth.
There was plenty of scenarios where we were the better team, but I wouldn't say for us anyway, better team but didn't have experience. There's more scenarios where there were teams that were more talented and better than us, but we had the more experience in San Antonio. We were older, and we caught the Warriors when they were young. So They were young. I wouldn't say they were always better. They had teams that were really good and that could have beaten us, and there were teams that, even OKC, Miami, they had more talent, but experience, composure, like all that is a big key of winning a playoff game and a playoff series. So if you don't have that, OKC, they're really good. The game is different in the playoffs, though. Shea is good against the free throw line. I don't know if he'll get as many foul calls. The game slows down a little bit. I don't know how much they'll turn over those teams that are experienced, like the Lakers. When you have two guys like Bron and Luka, like I didn't believe in Bron and Luka at all at first. I was like,
really?
They have Austin Reaves. I was like, nah, I don't think it's going to work. Like, this is for a future thing. When Bron leaves, Luka will take over. But them two together, like they need shooting around them. They need a rim protector defensively because defensively, Bron is a little older and Luka is just not going to be able to do on both ends. But I think because he's not has to do as much offensively, he saves more energy and can give you a little more defensively. Same with Bron, and with Austin, it gives them a little bit more leeway. So because they have that experience, I could see them upsetting OKC. You know what I'm saying? Because OKC's not going to just turn them over and deflect. And they're very good with the basketball. They don't turn the ball over like that. OKC's advantage is size and rebounding. So if they do that and get inside, but they don't have a post threat like Jokic. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. But OKC, you could be the better team and lose, and I've seen it happen plenty of times before. And said I was in a scenario where we've beaten those teams, and where I was the younger team that was a better team, but also lost because the other team was a little bit more experienced. But yes, everything comes into play when it comes to playoffs. So
yeah, is there a time, like a specific time, where you were like, you're playing a younger team and they do something to give away something where you're like, okay, our veteran skills gonna get us this series?
Yes, Golden State being one, OKC being one. We lost OKC. Memphis too. They were really good, but we were just a well-oiled machine in San Antonio. Like,
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Timmy and Tony had 1-2, but like certain plays they just wasn't stopping. With certain things Pop could find and dissect, and defensively we're gonna throw different things at them that they're not gonna expect. We also had good pieces. Well, we were young and up and coming too, like me and Kawhi. But we had some experience too with them. But Golden State, so Steph and Clay, we had a series with them. Steph was hitting one-legged three-pointers off the screen. It was gonna be hard for Tony to guard him. I had to chase Clay around, and they had some good. They had, I don't know if Iggy was still there, but they had really good pieces around them as well. But we just outsmarted them. Defensively, offensively, we did some things. We slowed the game down a little bit. We kind of limited their threes a little bit. And, OKC the same. They were young, and obviously when James left, it made it a little bit easier. When they had James, Serge, Russ, and KD, very hard team to beat. Memphis, they were really good. But we knew how to pick teams apart that were younger than us and just outsmart them. And it was just small things with backdoor cut here or there, or set certain screens there, or this guy's going to overplay here. We know how to set this guy up, or we're going to get Tony loose with this screen. They have to pick their poison. Timmy knowing how to set screens the right way, just little things. Manu, he wasn't a great defender, but he knew how to get a couple steals a game. Just because I'm smarter than this younger kid, he doesn't know where I'm coming from. I know how to hide from him. I know to sneak up behind him and get a steal. So yeah, plenty of times where that's happened.
Cool. So I want to. So speaking of the veteran teams, so my 2 through 4 are all veteran teams, and I think that plays into this. But also, I just think that they have, teams with the best players in the league. I got number 2. I have the Denver Nuggets at number 2, Lakers at number 3, and Warriors at number 4. Let's start with Denver here. Jokic is just, to me, the best player in the league by a wide margin. I think all these teams have weaknesses. For me, Denver is what is Jamal Murray going to do in the playoffs? Like that is the deciding factor.
Yeah, that's the biggest question. If he plays like we've seen in the past playoffs, Jamal Murray, they're going to be good. But if he plays like he's played this regular season, it's very up and down. We just don't know where they land. They've lost pieces the last couple of years. Their depth, they lack a lot of it. Russ is playing well for them off the bench and even when he starts. But they lack depth, and Jokic has to play a lot of minutes. In the playoffs, you can because you get days in between. There's not as much travel, so he can play a good amount of minutes. But for me, number 2, I just don't trust Denver at number 2.
So you don't have Denver number 2.
I don't have Denver number 2.
Who is your number 2?
It's a split between the Lakers and Golden State.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah.
And it's crazy because both those teams said before the deadline, I didn't even have them doing anything in the playoffs, or even one of those teams not even making the playoffs.
Right.
They were in the conversation with the Phoenix Suns. Golden State was, so to have them at 2 and 3 is a big shift.
Yeah.
And I think it's all Lakers regarding of how Bron comes back rhythm with his groin and how healthy he is, and then also said how JJ deciphers how he can defensively hide or change things with AR, Luka, and Jackson Hayes with energy. Like, they're going to need all hands on deck. They're going to need Jared Vanderbilt, Jackson Hayes, Finney Smith, Rui playing very good high basketball in the playoffs defensively and offensively for them to be good. But I think Golden State has figured something out. Jimmy, we know what Jimmy has done. And I don't know how he does it, but time and time again, that switch somehow turns on. And he's opened up a whole other thing for Golden State and allowing Steph to rest some. They beat Milwaukee without Steph the other night. Like,
right.
Bro, what? What's going on here?
Yeah.
If they doing stuff like that, Golden State had no shot of winning games when Steph sat.
Yeah.
Let alone beating a Milwaukee Bucks. They couldn't beat it struggled with the Wizards. They struggled with the Hornets. They might lose to the Hornets. No disrespect to them, but those are the teams at the bottom. So I like Golden State a little bit better. Steve Kerr has been there. I know Draymond talking about being defensive player of the year. He has pedigree and has been there, and he's been playing well. So I like them a little bit more over the Lakers because of Bron's injury. But those two teams are kind of neck and neck for me at like 2 and 3.
Yeah, I'm with you. So to me, the biggest difference, I mean, both Lakers and Warriors are top 5 defensively in the league since the trade deadline. To me, my concern with the Lakers, and we'll talk more about them in a second, is sustainability of, like you mentioned, the Nuggets every 48 hours. It's that defense with the Lakers every 48 hours having to maintain that defensive intensity, especially LeBron at his age, having to maintain that. The Warriors, for me, is the fact that Jimmy Butler, when he's on the court and Steph is off the court, they're like a plus 50 or something like that right now. And when you think about the Warriors, their thing has always been when Steph is played and he's off, they are net negative. The one game that Jimmy Butler didn't play against Philadelphia, the Warriors were minus 19
and they lost.
When Steph was off. Against a Philadelphia team that's actively kind of trying to lose games and kind of like thread the needle with the games they're losing. And, so Jimmy Butler allows Steph to get some rest, allows him to take some games off. Like that, I thought they were going to lose to Milwaukee by 20 points without Steph. And so for them to do that is incredible. So I think that makes a huge difference. Jimmy Butler is going to improve as a player in the playoffs. Steph's going to improve as a player in the playoffs. And Draymond Green has been putting up incredible defensive numbers against Giannis. Giannis was 0 for 7 when Draymond Green was guarding him.
And even offensively, he's shooting some shots. He's pretty
hitting corner threes. He's making threes.
He's taking the dare shots and making teams pay and give him the TJ McConnell FU. So he's and he's quarterbacking. He's doing what he does. I just think Buddy's looking better with Jimmy, and Kuminga is the only thing that needs to figure out like the space he's in.
Yeah.
Once he figures it out, once they all figure it out, this is a really good team, and they have a shot at making a run again, which is surprising. Like to make that happen in one trade.
And what's interesting about a Lakers-Warriors matchup is that JJ Redick's defense has been just letting players that he doesn't want to shoot threes, right? The thing with the Warriors, they're used to, like, Draymond Green knows what it's like when teams scheme for him to shoot threes, right? Jimmy Butler knows what it's like to be on teams where people scheme for him to shoot. They work their way around it. They call they regroup with the pick with Steph, and he comes off that screen, and now he's got an open three. So they can kind of work around some of that defense. But the Lakers thing is really interesting to me because I see some similarities with this team a little bit to that bubble Lakers team, right? And this fact is that when, and you can speak to this, of course, directly, it's like when the Lakers were entering into March, LeBron was playing really well. They were playing, but there was a concern about how sustainable this team was as sort of injuries were piling up, AD was piling up. Then you have a sort of 3-month break in the middle of the season, and LeBron comes back looking better than ever. Of course, he wasn't with an injury, but he still took a break in the middle of the season. Like right now, you have the LeBron taking a break in the middle of the season, and he's going to come back ready for playoff time. What was that sort of like gap like when LeBron comes back and you see him and it's like, did he look rejuvenated? What was like bubble Bron looking like?
I mean, we've seen it this year when he just took a week off,
right,
or whatever it was. He came back and he was on a tear. Unfortunately, I mean, he's an unbelievable player, and he's made us all eat our words time and time again. The difference is he's 40 now, so we just don't know, taking time off at 40. But for him, he just figures it out somehow. But yeah, he just turns it up a notch when it comes to playoffs. He when he gets a refreshment or reset, it allows him to be, the Bron that we've seen in the Miami, Cleveland days, which I don't know how he's able to do that. Turn back the time. I don't know if he has a time machine. I talked about this earlier or the other day on Run It Back. Where Steve Urkel, goes into a lab, comes out, Stephon. I don't know what the machine he does. He gets in his hyperbaric chamber, his Normatex, whatever it is, red light therapy. He's doing everything right. So when he comes out of that machine or comes back from a week of rest, where he's just a different guy, and he's able to turn back the clock and give himself, a good couple of months. It's like, he's going to go on a tear for another 2 or 3 months. He gets that before playoffs, but you just never know. So at 40, how his body's going to react. It's a groin injury is very serious. Yeah. I've had one, ascites pubis, and it's AD's had to the abductor. It can go into the abductor, it can go down to the groin. It's one thing that can, affect multiple places in the body, in the core. So yeah, I said I'm sure he's getting all the proper treatment, but man, he's a different player when he gets some rest, man. I'll tell you that. And he gives you a chance every night on the floor. So you have him and Luka, who both two players individually can give you a chance every night on the same group. So I just didn't think it worked when they first happened, but seeing it come to fruition, and then AR just balling, he's just unbelievable. He really is the fact why it's working is because of Austin Reaves. Austin
is he
Reaves
the best? Is he the best third option in the league right now? Stephen A. Smith is saying, is he the best third option in the league
this year by far? I think it's like he's the most consistent. I mean, you look at Boston; their best third option is probably because Porzingis is in and out a lot. Right. It's probably Derek White. Drew Holiday has been in and out. Drew Holiday's more defensive purposes, but it's a combination of Derek White and Drew Holiday. Right. Outside of that, you look at the Knicks. It's just Cat and Brunson, and then sometimes it's Mikal, sometimes it's OG, sometimes it's Josh Hart. AR has been the most consistent guy on the team that's been winning in the second half of the season, or the last fourth of the season anyway, and putting up big numbers. The only person that's playing better than him is Quentin Grimes. You know what I'm saying? Right. When teams go out, you're like, oh, we're going to take a loss. Like, you sit Luka, Rui, Bron, and everybody else against Denver. This guy goes up for, 30-plus or whatever it is, and Dalton Connect, he's got them playing. Well, not only is he scoring, but he's creating for his team and putting confidence in other guys. This year, and I can't say it's like he's the hands-down best, third player for any team, period. But just right now at this juncture and moment in this season. Because last season he had some struggles. Right. And for me as a player, I always hope that I don't go into the playoffs super hot. you want to go and kind of lukewarm and build because heat waves come.
Right.
Also, cold streaks come.
Right.
After a heat wave, usually a cold streak comes. So you just hope that cold streak doesn't come when he's in the playoffs where he can't find rhythm or find shots. Him and Gabe Vincent, those are the guys that you need to be playing well at the right time. And then Rui, of course. But he's the real reason why that Luka and Bron are able to conduct or go coexist.
Mm-hmm. What does that cold streak feel like? It's interesting. Like, what is a playoff cold streak? Because the mechanics are still there. Everything's still. What does it feel like when you were in a playoffs? And what was your sort of worst cold streak? And what does that feel like?
It's even harder, especially being in Lakerland when the magnifying glass is that much bigger.
Right.
During the regular season, the cold streak sucks, but it's not as the teams or the media. It's not as magnified. There's not there's not as much emphasis on it. You're not as much in your head. You're not thinking about it too much. But you already know, like, even when you do 10 years, even 10 years in, you're like, it comes and goes. You can tell yourself a bunch of stuff. Stop thinking about it. You're still going to think about it. It's still going to mess with you. And it's more mental than anything. Right. But it's just something you just have to wait till it passes. You have to shoot your way out of it. You got to just keep taking the next shot until you see one go in. And it just takes one to strike or to get you back in rhythm, to build the confidence. You try not to lose confidence, but we're just all human. Eventually, human nature is you can't make shots. You're just like, damn, what's wrong with me? What's happening? You get the yips. You might miss a free throw or two. Like, what the hell? So in that moment, a cold streak in the playoffs is probably the worst thing you can experience as a player. And you don't want to think, like, you're like, damn, I hope this is not one of those where I'm. And then next the media start pointing out the statistics, the stats of, Danny Green is, 1 for 9 in his last 3 games, or he hasn't missed. He only got like 5 or 6 attempts, or maybe 10 attempts, but he's only like 2 for 10. And it's like, damn, they're pointing it out. Now people are like, oh, we need him to step up. We paid him to do this, do that, and there's a lot of heat on you because everybody's looking at contracts, looking at this, which you're supposed to do. But there's nothing worse than a cold streak in the playoffs. Now during the regular season, it still sucks, but you can kind of get through it. Your teammates help you, especially San Antonio. You can win games and still not think about it. It helps to win games if you're cold in the playoffs and your team still wins games, but it's still very much like magnified when you're not playing your best basketball in the playoffs.
So let's go to the bottom of the West, which is interesting because right now, Warriors are kind of at the bottom currently, but we'll go through the bottom of our Western Conference right now. Number 5 is a team that 2 weeks ago I was not even going to have in this conversation at all, but they're been coming along, and that's Minnesota Timberwolves. They look a lot better defensively. They have those 2 big wins against OKC. They dominated Denver. I thought that Julius Randle was feeling unplayable for this team for a little bit of stretch, but Julius Randle's come back. He's passing the ball better. Defensively looks a lot better. Offensively, he's feeling better. Anthony Edwards has kind of hit his stride again with this team. How dangerous do you think this Timberwolves squad is?
I think they're very dangerous, and they can upset some teams. So I had them actually. I have them in Denver, kind of like how Golden State and Lakers are.
Okay, so you would have Denver 4 and 5 with Minnesota.
Yeah, I just don't trust Denver enough. They have more experience than Minnesota, so I have them above Minnesota. But they're both teams that, I said, there's still some basketball left. If they were a 6-7 seed, they can upset Memphis or Houston. Right. I just don't trust Memphis and Houston just yet. They're just too young. This is Houston's first time of kind of being there as a group. I mean, individually, I have some guys that have been there, but as a group, Houston was not in the playoffs last year. Right? They were playing and got knocked out, I think.
Yeah.
So it takes a year of getting whooped on, to get that experience. It takes a year of just being in that environment. And no matter how good you are, you can be the best team in the league, like OKC. They took some lumps last year against Minnesota or Dallas, and so Minnesota took some lumps. So they have some guys that have been there too, but Denver's definitely been there, so I give them a little edge over Minnesota. But Minnesota's definitely done a 180 for me because I thought it was one of the worst trades in history of the history of Minnesota. Yeah. When they let Cat go, and now it's not looking like as bad of a trade at all. It's like, all right, they're not where they were last year, but they're not far off anymore. Like, if they get a couple pieces or some depth on that bench, they could be back where they were last year in the near future again. So I like what they're doing a lot. They're doing some good things, but I'm just not fully trustworthy in them yet. and I don't think they're as good as what they were last year with Cat. But they're still a really good team. But said a couple weeks ago, you would have thought they're a play-in team. They're not that good. They're going home. If they're in the playoffs, first round exit early. But they have really turned it around and figured some things out.
So I have so bottom of the West are two of them are teams that you mentioned that are actually near the top of the actual West standings. But I'm with you. Grizzlies, I have at number 6. Just their defense comes and goes. They've not been healthy. Now there's a chance that I think Jamal Murray and a lot of those guys are saving themselves for the playoffs and maybe they could look better. I just don't necessarily trust that Grizzlies team. 7, I have the Clippers, which I definitely want to talk about this Clippers team. And then 8, unfortunately, is the Houston Rockets, which is the Houston Rockets team that I loved a couple months ago. They had beaten, Cleveland and Boston in a couple days. They got a win over OKC. Amen Thompson, we were talking about, as one of the more athletic futures of the league. I thought that team should have made a move at the trade deadline to sort of help them out in the immediate. But their offense has fallen off a cliff with Fran VanVleet out. I just don't believe in this Rockets team. I think if you're in the West, if you find yourself in the 6th or 7th seed and you're lined up with the Rockets in the first round, then you should be celebrating. No disrespect to the Rockets. Their time is coming. It's just not right now. So 6, 7, 8 is Grizzlies, Clippers, Rockets. Where do you think?
Where's Fred stand to come back? Do you know at the timetable?
So he was out. He came back for a game or two. Then he was out some more. My problem, my thing is that's been the concern. The offense has been so bad without Fred VanVleet, and Fred VanVleet is a great player. No disrespect to him, but if your offense is that dependent on Fred VanVleet, where it falls off a cliff like that, then I don't think that you should be we should consider you somebody sustainable for the playoffs.
For sure, all 3 of those teams I don't see sustainable, but I like the Rockets. I think I'm more trustworthy, more consistent than Memphis for me.
The Rockets over Memphis.
Memphis to me, I like a lot, but they're just so up and down, and there's also injuries. They always have injuries somehow. There's always something that comes up, and Ja always has a shoulder or a hip or something. You know, he does hit the ground quite a bit. I think that's why he said I'm going to stop dunking. He jumps so damn high. Right. And if you're jumping that damn high and you're hitting the ground like Allen Iverson that much, it's only formula for injury. So I like Houston and Memphis a lot, both, but I just don't think they're there yet. But I have Houston above Memphis. And then, what was the third team?
And then the Clippers.
I was high on the Clippers. I was high on them when they're
just coming off of a win over Cleveland.
Last night.
And Kawhi looked like Kawhi.
Kawhi did look like Kawhi, but they had really, Bogdan had a 8 for 8 night, didn't miss.
Right there.
Zubac had a 20 game. Those aren't going to happen that in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was high on them because I was like, they got Ben Simmons, and with him in a lineup that can play defense and pass the ball, gives him some different dynamic. He could play a Draymond role there if he's healthy and playing great basketball, like we know Ben can play, even if he's not Philly Ben, but if he's even a version of that.
Right.
I was like, that could be a dangerous team. They just haven't shown me enough consistency since the trade deadline and since they gotten him. Bogdan had a good night the other night, but he just hasn't been in rhythm, got enough minutes with them. James is up and down some. He's having a great stretch right now, but in the playoffs, Kawhi's Kawhi. You always got a chance with Kawhi on the court, but it relies a lot on Zubac, like the other guys, Bogdan, Derrick Jones Jr. And if I have to rely on those guys, I'm just not. And Ben Simmons, I'm just not trusting of it. So I have them at the bottom. I have Houston, Memphis, and then Clippers. But I had Clippers high before. But now after watching them since the deadline, that win last night, I don't take much. It's like Denver beating Golden State without Jamal Murray and Jokic. I don't take much. Lakers almost beating Denver without everybody playing. And Washington beating Denver. I'm not regular season game. I'm not taking much from it. Things happen during regular season randomly, but that's probably my last 3.
All right, so I like the Clippers. So I don't have a lot of faith in the Clippers going far in the playoffs. I love this Clippers. I find myself loving this Clippers team. There was nobody expected them to do anything this season. Norman Powell turned into prime Paul George out of nowhere.
Great, and it said also him with the fact that everybody's there now. I feel like he's not. He had some injuries. He's not getting the same reps. He's not getting the same kind of actions or same involvement offensively. He's a big part of that. If he's not doing that, he has to split that time with Bogdan or whoever else. it doesn't make them as like efficient or as as strong of a force.
So you mentioned, and I want to ask you this question because you mentioned James Harden in the playoffs. I want to go back, and I wasn't planning on asking this, but you jogged a memory here.
Yeah.
This is Game 6, Spurs against Rockets. Kawhi is out, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that Pop is saying like, "Hey, we're gonna save ourselves for Game 7, right?" And you get James Harden out there, and you guys blow him out by 1,000,000 points. James Harden has one of the worst playoff performances. What's going through your mind as you're in that game and that's happening?
I mean, I'm just thinking, Jonathan Simmons stepped up, played great. I think that's what you're talking about. Like, we had a couple guys, time and time again off our bench that next man up, that was a thing for us. And the guys were used to it because we did it throughout the whole regular season. And Pop prepared those guys for those moments. Patty Mills made a living off of it, like a career off of it. We had a bunch of guys like that. And it's just out of character to see him like that. And James is a great player, and he has great series. And I don't know what it is with him with some series or some matchups. He's always tough, one of the toughest guys I've ever guarded in my life, in my career, consistently. Hall of Fame player. But for some reason, in certain instances, and I think it's for every player, just human nature, that you can't have great games always, right? Yeah. But for him, I think mentally he just kind of takes a back seat.
Were you going into that game being like, all right, we're ready for Game 7, and then as the game's going on, you're like, we could win it? You felt like you were going to win that game when you went into it?
No, we never. That was never our thought process in any juncture. Pop never let us think that.
Okay.
No matter who was on the court or not, we always believed we could win. I said unless it was like Golden State when Kawhi got hurt. We thought like, we could fight, we can do something, we can get a game or two until he comes back. But we never thought, like, we don't go in thinking, oh, let's just steal one game on the road. No, we're going in, we're taking 2. We don't care if we're playing Miami, OKC. We're good enough to beat this team at their building. We're good enough to beat anybody with whoever we have on the floor because we just, we play together. We play that type of basketball. And sometimes, some moments, people are like, Kawhi's great, of course, and we're never a better team without him. But some people thought, like, oh, the ball moves better. There's some junctures where people are like, oh, Golden State's better without KD. The ball moves better.
Right, yeah.
No, they're not. But, yes, they're still very good, and they have a really good system to where they can very much maximize the other guys on the court or off the bench. But, yes, we played good enough basketball to beat anybody because we just played together. We played that,
And you said
European
James Harden is
type.
the toughest person you've ever had to defend?
One of the top 5 for sure, top 3 maybe, consistently through my career. I have Kevin Durant, he's in there for sure. There's a couple other guys, but him and Kevin Durant, probably 2 toughest guys to guard one-on-one. You're not going to stop them one-on-one, But so there's just moments where he just takes a back seat, he gets a little passive, and it's usually, I won't say every, because AD had a moment where they call him like every other game in the playoffs. It's not like that. I feel like James comes in, and maybe it's just like fatigue or mental fatigue, but like 4, 5, and 6, when you start getting toward the latter end of the series, I think he just kind of starts deferring a little bit more. Like you see his last stint in Boston, when he was in Philly, in Boston, it was like Game 6 or 7, and they were like, they weren't getting as much from him they saw in Game 1 where he had a 40 ball, or Game 2 or 3 at home in Philly in 3 and 4. I just think he kind of runs out of gas, physically and more so mentally. But it was a different situation for him. Joel was the main guy there, and he had Tyrese there. But so and that's just the MO for him. And I think he's a great player, but he might defer to Kawhi and not be. If the series goes 4, 5, and 6, and you're like, you know what, we're expecting James going to give us 30 or 40. Like, you can't positively say, like Kawhi, you're like, you know what, we're going to get this from him. He's going to show up every night. Like, his MO is this. With James, it's like he's great, but we don't know in Game 5 or 6 if he's going to be, like, we're for sure going to get 25 from him or 20 points. Right. Or we can expect a 30 or 40-point game from him at Game 5, like 6 or 7. A lot of teams look at him and, like, probably attack him because, like, James might be passive tonight. Let's get him out of the game. Let's try to get him disinterested, or let's try to not let him get a rhythm to where, he has to rely on Kawhi to score the whole night. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it's like, parts, not just James, but there's other parts of that group where it's like, I'm just not trustworthy of it. And it starts with Ben being another one, Ben Simmons, Norm not being in his rhythm right now because he's a force for them. So, yeah.
So I want to play a game. So we have our West. We have our Western standings. We have mine. We got yours. Okay, so I got mine. It's OKC, Nuggets, Lakers, Warriors, Timberwolves, Grizzlies, Clippers, Rockets, Danny Green's West, OKC, Lakers and Warriors sort of tied there, Denver, Minnesota, Houston, Memphis, and the Clippers. So those are our Western Conference re-ranked. We'll see who comes out on that end. I want to play a game with you. I want to play a little game. Danny Green, you have played with some of the best players in the league throughout your entire career. I don't know if you know this, but pretty much for the first 10, 12 years of your career, you played with the MVP, with somebody who has either won MVP or would go on to MVP in their year. And like one year
that could have been MVP at some point in their life.
Some that you could have been, and a year that you didn't have an MVP on your team. You had the Finals MVP in Kawhi Leonard, who also probably could have won an MVP. So I know a lot of times players like rank their top 5 teammates that they have and make a starting lineup and things like that. I'm going to challenge you a little bit further. You're not going to just name the top 5 players that you play with for your starting lineup. You're going to pick the year from them. So the best version of that player that you played with. So, for instance, you played with like a 2010 LeBron, 2020 LeBron. You played with a 2012 Tim Duncan. You played with the 2014 Kawhi and a 2019 Kawhi. So you're going to pick the year and the starting lineup. But also, what you can do, you can pick the same player from different years if you'd like. So, for instance, you can have a 2014 Kawhi and 2019 Kawhi on your team as a small forward, power forward. Wherever you want to go with it, your starting 5 lineup, player and year. Let's start with your point guard.
I'm gonna go a little different. So I'm gonna start with the best runs I've seen.
Best run. Okay, gotcha. Okay, all right.
Kawhi Leonard 2019, hands down.
Okay.
I had to put him at the small forward.
Small forward. Kawhi 2019.
I haven't seen a run like that ever. I mean, you could talk about when I was a kid watching Mike, MJ. Right, like, you know what I'm saying? But his run was unbelievable. Point guard.
Well, so that Kawhi. Let's talk about that Kawhi because you were in the locker room. The infamous story that you're down against Milwaukee
0-2.
And there's a conversation about what you guys are going to do. What is Kawhi? What is your perspective? What happened in that locker room?
I saw the pod where Phil talked about. I wasn't there for that conversation.
Okay.
But I know Nick was an outside the box thinker, so he just changed up the defenses all the time anyway. And we were doubling everybody, no matter who was guarding who in the post. If it was Kawhi guarding Chris Middleton, we were throwing double teams. Pascal guarding Middleton or Giannis, because some guys just aren't used to being doubles.
Right.
That was his theory. So it was like me guarding Chris Middleton. We're going to double in the post. Or the Karl Malone spot. It's like, can guard these guys one-on-one. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
Kawhi can guard this guy one-on-one. Pascal can guard the guy one-on-one. You know? But he just threw that out there. But yes, the conversation I think why I had Phil and Nick was, the adjustment is I'm going to guard Giannis.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, so that was the story. I said I wasn't there for that conversation. But yeah, that was when things changed. I mean, we lost the first 2. That game 3 was the toughest one to get over.
Right.
But the adjustment was we put Kawhi on Giannis because Pascal was getting in foul trouble. And the game is a game of stars. And you put the stars versus stars, they're not going to call as many fouls.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Kawhi also said, I'm going to do this, but he's also like, I got to worry about fouls. They're like, they're not going to call fouls on you guarding Giannis. Like, they're going to let y'all play. So he was making sure he was mindful of that and making sure, like, I need to give more. I need to give a lot on offense as well, but also need to make sure I guard this guy, but also not foul. So, like, he's like, we'll double, make sure we do this. And he's like, if I get a foul, be near me, raise your hand, that type of thing. So he has a high IQ. For people that don't think he does, he understands the game very well. But yeah, that was the adjustment. Made the adjustment. Game 3, we got out by the skin of our teeth. We didn't play a great game. Game 4, we blew them out. But once we got even, it's a new series. You know what I'm saying? They're on their heels a little bit. We go back into their building. Fred has his baby. Goes crazy.
He goes crazy after that, right?
Goes crazy. Hits all types of threes. And we're just a different group at that point. When you have a dynamic of like a guy like that scoring like that off the bench, Fred shooting the ball like that well and be able to set the table, and then Kawhi playing like him, and then Kalo playing, and Pascal, we had all these guys. So unreal. But yes, Kawhi 2019, hands down, I'm picking him first. But
Okay.
point guard, it's a tough fight because Kalo had a great year in 2019. And Tony in 2013, 2014 was an MVP player.
Yeah.
Unreal. So I'm going to, and I think Tony is more of a scorer. Kalo is more of a set the table. So if I'm trying to win a championship, I'm going to go with Kalo because you need a facilitator. But if I'm just going to go with the best player at that position, I'm going to go 2013, 2014, Tony Parker.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
At the 2, man, I'm just going to go to the 4. I'm going to go to the 4. I'm going to go with Tim.
You got AD, you got Tim, you got, Bron, different years at the 4, like,
I'm going to go AD. I'm going to go AD at the 4.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to go AD at the 4, 2019. I'm going to go Timmy at the 5 at 2013, 2014. 2013, 2014, Timmy.
Okay.
Timmy was still, he wasn't young, but he wasn't old.
And that was that dominant Spurs run through the playoffs, that Tim Duncan.
He had a good year in 2013, too.
Right.
Both those years, he was still very good.
Right.
So I'm going to do Timmy at the 5.
Okay.
So I'm going to have to throw Bron in there. I'm going to throw Kawhi at the 2.
Okay.
Kawhi's at the 2. 2019, Bron. I'm going to take 2020 Bron.
So you take a 2020 Bron over
2010.
Okay.
In 2010 Bron. More mature, knew how to win, still unbelievable athlete. He could do things. Just, he was a different version. And like I said, he was just that guy. And I'm going to take 2020 Bron over 2010 Bron, or 09, 010 Bron. So it's TP, Kawhi, Bron, AD, Timmy. But like I said, if I need a table setter, I'm putting Kalo at the 1 because I know he's going to be the guy that's going to take charges and swing the ball. Tony's
so six man on the group. Kyle Lowry, 2019.
Yeah, so man, that's a tough list to make, bro.
Hey, it's a good problem to have for a career, right?
Yeah, but that lineup is good. That front line with Bron, Kawhi, AD, and Timmy. Like,
nobody scoring.
What? At the point guard, it don't matter. You can have whoever. You don't have to play Tony. You don't have to worry about playing defense. Kalo, he does play defense. He's really good. That's why I would probably pick Kalo because he's more facilitator and would play defense, take charges, do little things. Tony said he'll just. You don't have many shooters there because Tony's good at getting in the paint and finding shooters and his floater. So I think Kalo would be a better fit for winning.
Gotcha.
With that group. But I think Tony was definitely the better player 2013, 2014.
Gotcha. All right, that's cool. That was cool. I'm glad. Thanks for playing the game. You got your lineup. We putting them against any lineup that anybody could make in terms of teammates. Absolutely.
In history, that's a great
All right, so we're gonna wrap this thing up with something with a thing called things I cannot stop thinking about that have happened.
Okay.
The first thing I want to talk about is Moses Moody, Golden State Warriors. I don't know if you've seen this clip. Moses Moody against the Denver Nuggets. Both of these teams actually at the end of the game, absolute garbage time. Let's cue this clip up so you can see what happened at the end of this game. So this is the end of the game, 20 seconds left. Denver's up 12 points. Moses Moody's coming down. Everybody's unlacing their shoes. People chilling. Moses Moody's having a shoot around. Danny Green. He gets his own rebound.
This is crazy. This is crazy.
Nails his 3 and hustles back. What are you seeing there?
Oh my God. And they just allowed it.
Right. The Nuggets didn't care. They were like, let's do it.
They're like, what are you doing?
Right.
He's having. Man, that's just. I mean, I'm all for playing to but there is a respect for the game. Moses Moody's not one of those guys that doesn't play ever. You know what I'm saying? So if you're one of those guys,
look at the between the legs. He gave it a little between the legs at the 3.
Yeah, he's doing his little walk in. He's doing his whole. But if you're a guy that hasn't played much, that haven't gotten the first basket, or you don't know how long you're gonna be in the league for, I'm all for getting your first basket or getting your points and letting the team know. If there's 2 groups of third, not second or third, but the third lineup, everybody they're playing hard. Cool, so be it. But Moses Moody's a guy that gets rotational minutes. You know what I'm saying? What are we doing here? What are you doing? And then Denver, what are y'all doing?
Right.
I ought to, after you shoot a shot, I'm getting a rebound. I'm fouling him, or I'm guarding him. I'm taking the ball from him. What the hell are you doing? So I don't just blame him, but it started with him. But Denver, y'all, come on, y'all got to do something about this. I'm surprised Russ didn't run off the bench.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, and do something crazy, but there's a sportsmanship to the game that you got to kind of, that line, that boundary, you got to respect it.
All right, so the other thing I can't stop thinking of is not basketball related at all. It's what I'm watching. It's Temptation Island on Netflix. Dana, are you a reality show person? Are you on?
Nah, man. I've vowed to. Wifey watches it, so
Okay.
I have.
So you watch it. You watch it. Come on, you can tell me you watch it. You watch
I've been forced into it once. So I haven't watched it since like Flavor Flav, Love and Hip Hop. You know,
Okay.
that long ago. And I was like, yo, my dad put in like reality TV is killing your brain, and it gets puts things in women's heads that they think. And ultimately, it makes them feel more normal because there's people out there that are crazier than them, right? Most people, and it is fun and entertaining. Also, learned that some of it is scripted. Like a lot of it's not really reality. So it's like we're watching it. I did watch what I watched with wifey. I watched half a season of, I think it was Love Island or something.
There we
like
go.
that.
Love Island, classic television. But Temptation Island, it is a couple goes to an island, right? A couples go to an island.
And they switch and see if they have.
Yes. Oh, you know the show. Come on. You know what I'm talking
I have
about.
an idea of all how these things go. That is also Love is Blind, where they don't know each other,
Love
get
is Blind
married.
is
I'm like,
great.
But it's such good trash TV. So like Love Island was good trash TV. So I enjoyed the entertainment of it. You get to learn these people, and I think after you just want to see what they're doing in life. Like for me, even after TV series, I watch they're real actors. So I'm like, all right, where they're from. I try to guess where they're from, how old they are. These people aren't like real actors, but I just like I wonder what this person's doing. Like after I watch the series,
So you
her,
go
like,
down the rabbit hole. You follow them on Instagram.
Yeah, and I'm
Danny
like,
Green.
I'm
You are a reality TV show fan, and I'm not taking no for that. You're a fan. You're a fan of it.
You get kind of you get. You know how like it's like a household that you share.
Yeah.
Even with these characters that you watch on TV series, they're not the same, but you get like a rapport with these people. Like, damn, I'm wondering what this person is doing. Like, so you look him up, like, oh, is he actually doing something with himself after this? So I watched the end of a half a season of one of them, and then we looked at the people and see if they're still together. Like, I know this is fake, and I'm like, yo, and I tell wife, she's like, don't tell me. I'm like, yo, I don't know if these people are gonna make it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I cheat the show, but. Yeah, I haven't watched it since then, but she watches it. Some of it's funny, but I just can't do the reality TV like that. But I said, once in a blue, she'll force me and talk me into watching an episode or two, like every 4 months or so.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you're locked in, so I'm gonna let you slide. It sounds like you're like. There's the other thing that I want to talk about. This is the third thing I can't stop get on my mind. So I had my very first Sports Center in studio appearance this weekend, right? So as you know. Danny, I appreciate it. As you know, somebody who comes fresh for these occasions. I've seen you on the set. You had your shoes on. Everything is you are making sure that your TV look is perfect, right? So I was agonizing over my TV look. This is what your boy was rocking, right? I felt good.
Okay.
The brown suit, right? You know what I'm saying? Look a little
good
chocolate
colors.
suit. Feel great. Everything's good with the Kobe's on, right? With the Christmas Kobe's, right?
Yeah.
So feeling great. I look on Instagram today, right? And I see everybody raving over this suit, right? My suit.
Yeah.
But it's on Will Packer is wearing my suit a day later, and everybody's talking about how fresh Will Packer is on Instagram. Daddy,
that's the worst, bro.
Help me out here. Like we need. I don't know if you know Will Packer. These people tell him to stop biting the style because they saw me on Sports Center. I know Will Packer watches Sports Center at 7 a.m. and he's putting on my suit, and everybody's talking about how nice Will Packer's wearing. In my suit, first of all, I need a suit endorsement. I'm not telling people where it's from until I get my endorsement. But Will Packer's wearing my suit, man.
There's nothing worse than showing up to work and somebody like your employee,
right,
that has a bigger name than you in the space that gets the recognition. Like me showing up to games wearing certain outfits, and then you seeing Jordan Clarkson or Shea, like, yo, damn, I just wore that shit like 2 months ago. What the? Why am I not on the League Fit page? You know what I'm saying? Like, these guys are the fashion gurus. You know what I'm saying? These are the coos. Anything they wear, they put it out there. Like, and if I wear something, it might get out there once in a blue, but it's like you got to do something crazy to get a statement. There's nothing worse than that, of wearing something first, but somebody else getting all the credit and the notoriety for it a week or two later or a month later. It's like, I just wore that jacket.
2 days later.
Jacket 2 months ago. And nobody has any footage of it. It's crazy. But, hey, it says that you're doing something right, man. And, keeping it clean, keeping it casual, it's comfortable.
Yeah.
But hopefully you get that suit endorsement. But, yeah, you're in a good space, and we'll let him know. Tell him stop biting your style, man. You
stop jocking the style, Will Packer. You're a billionaire. Get your own suits and stop worrying about what I'm wearing, man.
Man.
And we're gonna we're gonna bleep out the name of the suit company. I'm not gonna say it, but it's bleep it out. And then
better tell them to get you. They better get you a deal, man. They need to start getting you free suits.
When I get them free suits, man.
And then you'll have, when you go on ESPN or Sports Today, they'll take the pictures. You'll post it, tag them, let them know. It's legs to Legler. He got a great. I don't know. I was about to ask him, but the shoes he wears, they're like dress shoes, but comfortable. They're like athletic dress shoes, and I'm like, I didn't get a chance to ask him. I'm like, where the hell you get those from? I might need to get a pair of those. He might need to get a shoe deal, man.
We need some deals, man. We come on now.
Set the trend. Start, taking pictures, social media, and then next you're the face of it. You're the face of the suits.
It's time, man. Danny Green, I appreciate you so much, man. Thanks for being a good sport. Thanks for playing the games with us and everything.
Of course.
And we're gonna go suit shopping together and get fresh.
Definitely, man. It was a lot of fun. You got to stay fresh. I get some more ties. I try to keep it casual, but I need some more ties.
Gotcha, man. Appreciate it, man.